What's going on, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena, alongside Mr. Alex Fleming, Fantasy and Flavors, Florida Sun Review, Buck Report contributor, and, of course, NBC Sports Radio 1060, the Sports Hangover, Michael Carotenuto out there in Arizona. Gentlemen, we've already exchanged pleasantries before we jumped on here today, so let's dive right into this. Andy Dalton got released from the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday, and in less than 48 hours, he is officially signed as the currently, I'm going to say, backup quarterback to the Dallas Cowboys. He got a 1-year, $7 million deal. $3 million of that is guaranteed. So, Mike, let me just go to you. This is your team. What are you feeling about Red Rocket now being your backup quarterback?
Cooper Rush was showing improvements, but it is an upgrade. You got a starting caliber NFL quarterback, which we touched on the other day. I mean, the guy is a starting caliber NFL quarterback. He can perform in the league given the right opportunity. A guy that took somebody to the playoffs. And that's one thing the Cowboys, pretty much always lacked. You got to think, we didn't know what Tony Romo would be. Anybody's disdain aside for him. That was Bledsoe's backup. So the Cowboys Parcells, they obviously had an NFL caliber backup. It's tough to get those guys. It's way obviously fast forwarded from the days of Steve Young sitting behind a Joe Montana and paying him well to stay there. But at the same time, that's, one thing you've been missing. You want to try and fill in all your pieces. If people don't think Andy Dalton could, win in the playoffs, but we talked the other day, he could win in the regular season. So if Dak does get a little banged up, again, people were big on Matt Castle. He did so there. But, yeah, to have a backup quarterback that's starting caliber for a year, I've always shocked because I get the salary cap and you're not going to dump, 50% of your cap into two players.
Right.
That'd be pretty tough with the backup quarterback. But I was always a little surprised that more teams weren't spending a teeny bit more, on something like that. So, with Andy Dalton, though, to answer your question, I like it as a backup. As much as we go back and forth and I razz, about Dak a little bit, if he wants to be the highest paid, whatever it is he's looking for, but they're going to get that done. And I just think it actually helps Dak a lot more, just like having Tony Romo in the quarterback room helped him his rookie year.
Okay. So, Alex, let me go to you because I'm looking at, Andy Dalton over the course of his, now 9-year season from 2011 to 2019. This is a guy who's completed 62% of his passes. He's thrown for over almost 32,000 yards. His touchdown interceptions is 204 to 118, 87.5%. But my big knock on Andy Dalton is the fact that you're good in the regular season, but you've been a one and done in the postseason. So, the Cowboys we know are starting to actually evolve and actually push the needle forward. When you're playing in the NFC least and a 9-7 record can get you into the postseason, what impact does this mean for not only the Cowboys, what does it mean for Andy Dalton?
I think this is a beginning of a shift, if you will, on how teams are going to process quarterbacks and how the 17-game schedule is going to affect people. Now, that's down the road. Let's talk about the here and now.
Okay.
I thought it was just a power ploy to make sure that Dak doesn't try to strong-arm the organization and he's going to sign the contract on the dotted line because now he knows, although they won't go backwards and sign Dalton, now he knows that he doesn't have the leverage in contract negotiations anymore. Now, they didn't have a viable backup. Cooper Rush compared to Dak Prescott, that's not even a funny joke. That's just a bad joke. Andy Dalton, although is not quite a game changer, is a viable quarterback, and he is a viable starter. I'll give him that. With that being said, it just basically goes to show, Dak, stop being greedy. Next time the contract comes around, you might want to sign it. Because if you only go by the franchise tag, which they can pull, by the way, but if you only go by the franchise tag and something, Lord forbid, were to happen to you and Andy Dalton jumps in, I guarantee you these people will eat each other and turn their on you. Plus, next season, when it's a 17-game schedule, I think New Orleans, Dallas, Philadelphia, and a couple of other teams are going to be in the mix, showing that you have two viable quarterbacks, and you can start playing both of them during the regular season. I thought it was a good move by Dallas.
Okay. Mike, let me come back to you now. Dak still hasn't signed. Everybody else in that organization has signed. If you're Dak Prescott right now and Steven and Jerry Jones come to you and McCarthy comes to you and says, you know what? You've seen what we're able to do, piggybacking off of what Alex said about the business, and we offer you $30 million, or let's say they even go low. I'm just saying, let's just take, I'll say 30. If you're Dak Prescott, do you still try to strong arm this?
To me, no. I mean,
Okay.
again, and it's hard to turn down 30 million, and I get it. And yes, he does have a winning record. Again, what's around him? And another thing real quick about Andy Dalton before finishing on Dak, I mean, he did go to TCU. He has a home in Dallas. I mean, that'll be even, not that he, he's a professional, but it'd be even more comfortable in Dallas. With him and Jameis, though, similar thing. I mean, it is for 1 year. So if they were to start and play, like Alex is saying, because you're right, it is one of those things where you can look at the other quarterback and say, okay, I mean, not that Sean Payton and Drew Brees have that issue, but that being said, like he went to TCU, being from Dallas, has a home there, could definitely benefit him even more. But yeah, if you're Dak, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You play under the franchise tag, and it's what, 28.8. So I mean, you only make either way. Like Alex has said before, I mean, playing for $2 million last year on his rookie deal. Okay, that's a people will look at, you just got a $28 million raise a year. Okay, sign me up. Again, I mean, it's one of those things where if you do strong arm, I think you start, even though fans will say, well, man, they signed everybody else. Your difference about Amari Cooper or not. You sign everybody else. You have Zeke signed. You have Amari. You have a Michael Gallup. You have, Jason Witten leaves, and people are, I've seen Cowboys fans saying, we didn't want him to go, but if he's older and can't play, why did the Raiders sign him? I mean, it's like when DeMarcus Ware left. I never understood that reasoning. But that being said, you have weapons around you. You just got a CeeDee Lamb drafted for you. So now you potentially, like we talked about on draft night, could have one of the top receiving cores in the NFC. The Cardinals are obviously going to bid for that. I mean, it's insane. So you have to look at it and say, okay, if they offer you $30 million, I mean, guys, anyone that dislikes the Cowboys, you still realize they're probably going to make an extra $5 to $10 million a year in endorsements, or the Cowboys quarterback, like if locally and or nationally.
Right.
During football season. I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers made a name for himself. Obviously, Green Bay has that mystique. But you're telling me you're going to feel undervalued if it's 30. Now, if they go under 30, Eric, I would be like, okay, cool. Let me sign the franchise tag, because you want to try and win you're going to have to try and re-sign Andy. Now, Andy Dalton's not going to command $30 million the next year. There's no way. But that being said, too, okay, cool. Let me play under the franchise tag, because you can't pull a Le'Veon Bell as a quarterback. I think Alex touched on this last time around too. We were agreeing. You can't pull a Le'Veon Bell as a quarterback and sit out for a year.
You're right.
I mean, you can't. The unfortunate thing is, if you get hurt, like you said, then you just get your 28.2 or $30.2 million, whatever the franchise is, and go from there. But if you pull it as you could, I guess, as a quarterback, but people would be like, that's not a leader. That's selfish. And
True.
The team needs to get it done. Yes. And is it the team's fault? Sure. You can't just say that they're selfish, but the team's, again, if they went to him last year at $32 million and $33 million, like has been leaked, again, we weren't in the room. I don't know if it's true, but if they won $33 million before last year and he turned it down, and you don't go to an NFC championship like we've talked about before, and you don't go, you don't get to a Super Bowl, you're going to ask for more? Yeah, you want to say the head coach is not a rookie play caller, but I mean, the first quarter of the season, Eric, everybody was raving how Kellen Moore just kind of got it and slid into it and worked well with Dak and the offense, right? And then the wheels kind of went off the hinges after that, from that point on.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he does strong arm, I think, again, you look at it, every quarterback needs weapons. And we all know that no matter how great they are, if they don't have a lot around them, then it makes it even tougher with how great they are. So he has every right to strong arm. I just think that I'm with Alex. It's a little shot fired, because, I mean, come on, 1 year, $7 million, worth up to, 1 year, $7 million, 3 of it guaranteed. Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's move on to Jameis, because Alex, I haven't talked to you pretty much all week. You've been hustling, man. I need to get your thoughts on Jameis now, going from a $20 million a year quarterback to a backup $1 million a year. Mike spoke about, an upgrade for Jameis. This man, the brother's a backup and got something on the cheap with New Orleans. Does this make sense? I mean, we Mike and I have our opinion, but I want to get yours on Jameis now being a New Orleans Saints. Hey, brother, we're having a little trouble.
We like you.
Okay, there we go. We were having a little trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
A little better, but you're still a little low. All right, we're gonna try and get Alex back in here in a second. Mike, you and I have talked about Jameis and basically the punch in the gut that kind of happened to him. Going from being a starter in the NFL 4 or 5 years, now as a backup. You, me, and Ruth the Truth talked about who's he going to thrive more under. One thing that I thought about, I've had plenty of time to sleep on this, how I want to approach this. Jameis Winston did not really get a mentor. He basically came into the league. He was the number 1 draft pick. And this was a guy who kind of was thrown out there to show and prove what he was all about. The same way, Jared Goff had to go through it. Carson Wentz had to go through it. Marcus Mariota had to go through it. Baker Mayfield had to go through it. You and I are old school in the thought process of you should sit behind a veteran and kind of learn the system before you're just thrown at it day one. Jameis finally now gets that in New Orleans. And I hope that he can reinvent himself and move his career forward. But to go from $20 million a year to $1 million a year, I mean, that I'm taken aback by that. And here's my reason. His agent couldn't have got him more. I understand he's a backup, but I mean, it's a 1-year deal. I see your point, but I mean, damn, 1.1.
But I think to your point, same thing with Dak, like you're saying, Eric. I mean, it goes along the same lines. It's leverage. The Saints have all the leverage. If you want to come in and you want to learn, and for Jameis at that point, you're right. I mean, mentor or not, your agent's got to be smart enough to be in your ear saying, hey, go with Super Bowl caliber Sean Payton, Drew Brees. Like, you go in there and screw that up. Nobody's going to feel sorry for somebody making $1 million a year. But you're right. In the scale of it, when you go from 20 million to 1, like we were saying the other day, it's a gut punch.
Yeah.
Your agent's got to be in your ear. And here's a funny thing from college. And again, not that players, I mean, I know Chase Young sat out some games this year, this past season, pardon me. And you look at it, and college players, yes, have been disciplined. It's a joke when, like, okay, they're not going to play the first quarter. Yes, it could. If they're not going to play the first quarter, it's probably something very, very minor. It's not worth the game. It's not worth shot fired of, some coaches will be like, no, you're sitting for the game. That's it. I mean, in college football, especially when you're a great quarterback, I mean, and everybody made their jokes about the crab legs and, him jumping on the table in the student center and, shouting him. It's like, you can be a teenager and have fun. Look, you're in college. Nobody expects you. And again, that's where I think media understands is going to say, okay, this kid kind of does need a mentor. But in the NFL, you're not away from the facility. It's not like you can only be there for 20 hours like they have him in college. As
right.
You know. For Jameis, yeah, I mean, he needed that mentor. I think Jimbo Fisher was a guy. But my point is, like, when you're a star quarterback, there's going to be rope. And unless you do something terribly bad, terribly bad, and Jameis did have to sit out. Did he learn his lesson? And then you go to Tampa, and you're the guy. You're working with an offensive dude like Dirk Cutter, who I think helped evolve his game a little bit. You get with Bruce Arians, and we saw the increase in touchdowns, but unfortunately, yes, the increase in interceptions as well. So, yeah, if you don't take that punch in the gut as an athlete, just not even as an athlete, as a competitor in anything in life. I mean, if you and I are working for, a network and they say, hey, they came after us, and they're both like, hey, one is not, we're not better. One's not better without the other. We love what you guys do. We're going to give you guys both, I always relate when the people are going to contract negotiations in sports. I'm like, they'd never do it. But Friends, back in the day, David Schwimmer had a Broadway background. Mm-hmm. And when they went and negotiated for their last 2 seasons, Eric, I've read a little bit about this. I love watching the show. I mean, they were all back then the highest paid stars on TV when they did their last, I think it was like 2 or 3 seasons, whatever it was, because David Schwimmer's like, look, we got to stick together. No one is more important than the other. He's like, and they didn't have the egos, at least around each other, and they were each getting $1 million an episode.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
So,
yeah.
So if they come to you and me and they say, hey, well, Eric, you guys are good, but we want to give you, $5 million. I mean, look, if they said give you 5 and they're giving me 3, I'm not going to sit there. No one's going to feel sorry for either one of us, right? But
true. But I would at least say give Mike 4. I said I'll split the difference and let me and Mike get 4.
But if they came to both of us and said, hey, we want to pay you guys, like you said, each 4 apiece,
Yeah.
Because I'm not thinking, man, I did all this, I should get 6, he should get 2. Or, man, Eric's thinking he did all this, he should get 6 and I should get 2. Hey, we're going to pay you this, you guys. It's not, and believe me, anyone that says, oh, what? It's like, communism theories. I'm like, $4 million a year. Yeah, no, we're good. We're both good.
Yeah, I'm good.
But for
I'm happy.
Jameis, I mean, if as a competitor in life, and even from playing sports or, anything, you always had a friend, that got better grades than you, or somebody that, was a little bit better than you on the field. You could play, you could hang, but they just had that little bit extra. You're going to spend that, take those 100 more free throw shots, or sit there and throw, 50 more passes to targets after each practice, and just put that grind in. If this doesn't do it for Jameis, man, nothing will. And
we got Alex back, Mike. So let's go to him. Alex, glad you're back. All right, your thoughts, Jameis, New Orleans.
All right, Taysom Hill threw for 546 total yards total in his career. He just got a contract, 2 years, $21 million. Gadget player, like the tight end, wide receiver, running back, and a little bit of quarterback. He is not the answer. I will argue with people from New Orleans and people with half brain cells. He is not the answer. Just 5,109 yards last year, 5-year career. I'm glad you mentioned Andy Dalton earlier, because he's got a total of 32,000 yards off of a 9-year span. Jameis has 19,737 in a 5-year span. Easy number, easy decision. Now, Jameis had to come back from injury. Jameis is the 30 for 30, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. He's from Alabama. New Orleans isn't that far, and he's still doing good work in the community. This was done for Jameis other than the contract. Oh, and by the way, Pat McAfee, I believe last night, slammed a Mr. Citro on saying he didn't have good information about Pittsburgh offering Jameis the contract. Jameis went to New Orleans and took less money. This is about retribution.
All right, so this is Jameis's get back, if you will. Okay, I mean, fair enough. I definitely see your point. I'm just saying, when you go from $20 million to $1 million, it's a reality check for you. Now, granted, you're going to play with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and you have that opportunity to really elevate and reinvent yourself. However, from a business standpoint, I'm looking at my agent and saying to myself, this is all you got me on a 1-year deal, especially considering the fact that, Andy Dalton just got a 1-year deal, $7 million, but $3 million of that is guaranteed. Jameis's deal, I think, was $1 million. I mean, a 1-year, $10 million deal, but he only got what, $1.1 million of that. It brings up.
Million,
go ahead.
$1.1 million with incentives. It's actually a $4 million contract. If he needs the incentives, is a good teammate, doesn't miss practice, and can come in. If he gets some yardage, the deal gets better. Now, in hindsight, it looks like a horrible deal. It's like they got him for an extra big bucket of crab legs at Publix. But if you look a little bit deeper, the Saints have won that division 3 years in a row. They've been knocking on the door going to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. This is, if you will, the last chance for the New Orleans Saints, because everybody knows that after this year, nothing is promised. Defense got better. Offense got a lot better. And they needed a backup. Breeze went down last year, 5 games. He came in, picked up the pieces. Do you really want to replace Drew Brees with Taysom Hill at the quarterback position? I don't think so. Jameis is going to play some this year, and you never know. It must be that third game in the big sombrero, Raymond James, for the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay.